Hey everyone, this is part 2 in a video of how to draw Optimus Prime. If you missed part 1, check out the first video, how to sketch Optimus Prime. That link should be in the description below. Now let's get started. So we've got this basic shape here. Now what I'm going to do to ink this is I'm going to make this increase the opacity here to about right there. And I'm going to make a new layer. And then I'm going to switch up to just a black ink line. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to use one of my rotate keys to rotate this. And here's where we kind of start really making things look, adding weight to lines and cleaning up as we ink. So we're going to start with where I started before. That's usually where I start with him, on his forehead. Now I usually do these things freehand. You could use the line tool if you wanted really crisp artwork. I kind of like doing it freehand, a little more organic. Even when I draw them by hand. And I'm not worrying about line weight too much at the moment, so I'm going to go back in just a second and clean that up and thicken up some lines. So I'm just making it a little like what's called dead line for the most part. Oops. So right here, because he's facing this way, you're going to see kind of where this part is set back in here. And actually, I need to clean that up a bit. There we go. Maybe not. Too busy talking. Okay. So. Actually, probably zoom out a little bit. Now, there's two kind of edges that you have with anything you draw, but with robots, it becomes pretty important that you recognize, like up here, what edge is a hard edge. That's where the edge is. You're looking over the edge. You don't see what's on that side. And the soft edge, which means the edge is pointing kind of towards you. So you want those hard edges to be thicker, and it's going to create depth. So if I make this a bit thicker, but straight, what's going to happen is, as you build up these lines, it's going to look like it's going to create three-dimensional depth in the character. So things don't look quite as flat. See, you're looking at, this is a hard edge, this is a thinner edge, and building up those line weights is really important. We're going to actually have his nose kind of come down like that. There we go. But a lot of this is going to be in shadow. Right, all of this right down to here. We're just going to make that a nice dark shadow. And this is going to be a hard edge. This is that side of the nose, because the light source is from the left. you may find as you're using your, and I should probably, I don't usually use the glove. XP Pen gives you a glove. It looks just like this. Goes on over your, and actually I'll show you. For smaller tablets that I've used in the past, I haven't needed it, but when you get into a tablet this size, your palm of your hand might catch on it and help you. It won't help when you do longer strokes, so it goes over that side so your hand kind of glides over it. When I switched up to this tablet, I realized why that can be important. See, that's already a little bit easier. So I'm not fighting. Drawing is hard enough without fighting the palm of your hand against the surface of the tablet. All right, so we're just going to go through here and get all these different areas. And you could go really detailed to simplified. It just depends on your style. It depends on how close you are, for example, to the, if you're going to do a close-up, super close-up on a robot, you might want to go a little bit more with the detail. About here, you know, we're just kind of mid-range, and I tend not to do overly complicated drawing. I think one of the dangers in doing an overly complicated robot is you getting confusing for the viewer. And for the purposes of this, we are just trying to make this a solid drawing of a recognizable character. And as you're trying to build up your audience, and as you're trying to, as an artist, build up your viewers or your followers, you know, we all want to do original characters, but you need to do a good split of fan art, things that and characters people recognize, along with your own stuff. Because the characters that people know is where they're going to hop on board with you. If they like the way you draw this character, they know they're more likely to hop on board with your own stuff because they've decided they like you. They like the way you draw. Gives them an easy place to hop on board with you as an artist. I always make the comparison of a band. If you're a new band, you do a lot of cover songs of well-known songs other people have done, and that way people are really getting used to your sound, but not having to learn, you know, become familiar with a whole new band or like song. If that makes sense. People like what they know. All right, so we're over here on this side is a lot of things in darker areas, and I'm gonna leave just a little bit of little nicks and places where the color over there, whenever we go to color it, which will be in another video, you'll be able to see that color show through. I think that's a nice effect, and it's interesting too, rather than just doing solid blacks in the inking. Maybe we'll leave a little bit over there. There we go. Thicken up that edge, and I need to thicken up that side. All right. Now, that side isn't quite lined up. It's good to when you're drawing a face or you're drawing things that need to be symmetrical. Start over here and then just kind of drag your hand across as the reference point. And we're slightly above him, where his angle of his head is, so, or the way his, maybe not viewer wise, but his angle of his head is tilted this way. So you're gonna see this bottom. So this would be actually, if I can color this in, like there's a little bit of shadow there, you can see what I'm talking about. This is actually, you know, the part of this little cheek guard that's inset inside the thing. Picking up that line. I'm gonna fade this one out here. Okay. We'll zoom out a bit. Oop. There we go. And in just a minute, we're going to turn off the sketch, and that's going to show us what we need to work on in inks to kind of refine. Because what the sketch does, if you leave it up there the whole time, your mind is going to fill in things you actually have not inked that maybe you meant to, but you actually didn't. And again, you could use the like the straight line tool. That's going to be really thick. I think we'll bring that down. I like to draw things freehand. If you wanted to, you could get in here and make it absolutely just straight. Sometimes I do that. Just depends on your preference. All right, so now we're going to take away this and see where we are. So we know we need to come up here this way, part of his neck. Picking up some of these lines. You could use a tech pen as well, so let's not do that. I don't want that so thick on that side. I'm using a brush. You could use like the tech pen, or again, use what you're comfortable with. I've got a lot of brushes here, and I could spend a lot of time, you know, the rest of my life figuring out those brushes, but it's best to really settle on a few you always use and get good at. And then when you have time to kill, then you just explore a little bit. And one of the things too is to make this more interesting, so I'm gonna add some little nicks and little damage. So like on his faceplate especially. It's supposed to be an old robot. It's been around for a long time. So we're just gonna add some nicks, some battle damage maybe. When we go to color it, you can add even more. Where like paint is peeling off, like right here, this could be like paint that's chipping away. We could even add, like on here, a little crack in the glass. His windshield. Maybe he took a hit. So this is going to radiate out. We're going to add a little bit more shadow just to get some depth here on that side, over there. And one of the nice things about got a little shine, I guess reflection here. One of the nice things about digital as well is that you can draw with white, right? So I can go over here and select white. You can, traditionally you can do it, but it's a little trickier. But here it's just the same thing. I can go in and draw in some of these little mechanical things. Just an indication of where things are. The forms are. I can push these little vents back in here. Clean things up. Put some battle damage up there as well. Some feathering under his eye. And we're almost at a point where we'll just have a finished inked Optimus Prime. One of the things I like to do as well is add little lines that kind of indicate maybe where there are, like especially down here, maybe where there's panels or where things could fold, or just where he's assembled or put together. Like up here, and it's going to help define the form as well. Let's make more. There we go. Rotate it out. Maybe let's even make that. Push that up a bit. All right. So there we have a Optimus Prime drawn in Clip Studio Paint EX on the XP Pen Artist Pro 15.6. And so that's generally how I go about just laying out a figure, very lightly going in, sketching it out, and then putting the inks on top of it. So that's kind of my process for doing a character like this, specifically robots. Next time I'll go through and we'll go over coloring and how to take this inked Optimus Prime, put some color on it. Until next time, take care and draw some good stuff.